Welcome back to Gig Harbor Paddling. Today we're talking about sprint workouts. So before the kids do any workout, we always have them do a warm-up. And that starts on land, of course. So today I had them go for a run and they came back and we did stretching. Today they need to do a few specific drills, and one of them I call the backing drill, and it's to help them understand where the power position is. And that's basically where the blade is fully buried as far up as they can get with proper form, because when they're paddling at normal speed, that theoretically is the moment I want them to have peak power per stroke. And so if we can identify that when they're stationary, identify that when they're backing so they feel the muscles engage, and then we can even add on a progression of that when they do rotation in the water, which is kind of a balance drill, but the point is to really identify that power position and to hold the frame all the way through. So today they started out with that drill. Within a week, we have anywhere from 5 to 7 water practices for some of the athletes, and not every single practice is going to be a sprint workout. The quality will go down. It's not good for developing their well-roundedness as an athlete, even though they are sprint athletes. So in this season, some of them are preparing for trials. They will have more sprint workouts than others that have a peak regatta way later in the season. But a sprint regatta or a sprint workout is actually about where their heart rate is at, where their stroke rate is at, where their rate of perceived exertion is at. And it's also defined by the amount of time that I program them in that intensity. So I will not program somebody to be in our zone 3 for 3 minutes. That's unrealistic. I'd have them in a zone 3 for 20 seconds or maybe 30 seconds. So that there's different zones, and there's zone 1, 2, and 3, which we just transitioned to, versus zone 1 through 5. So you'll get people who use different zone ranges, but our zone 3 is all out. It's max. It's uncapped. It's as many strokes as possible. It's as high of a heart rate as you can handle. Zone 2 is their race pace. So if I program a workout and I say zone 2, I'll say afterwards 500 meter race pace or 1,000 or whatever. And then zone 1 is more their steady state. It's about them being more in technical stages. These zones are also defined by their I was saying their heart rate and their stroke rate, but also the energy system. So the zone 1 is aerobic capacity. It's more about aerobic and using oxygen for your energy supply. That's why it's a lot lower level of a heart rate. Zone 2, like race pace, that's going to be a lot of anaerobic. So it's a lot of threshold lactic acid is in your muscles, and you do not have a lot of time to replenish that energy, and so the lactic acid builds up. It's usually a lot more painful, and athletes don't like it. Zone 3 is a lot more fun because it's shorter, punchier, high max rate, and it's a lot more about your ATCP system. So there you go. Those are our specific zones. Today's practice, there is no specific distance. It's actually 20 seconds on and then 10 seconds off. These guys are beginning their first 800 meter piece. They should be going a low level right now, focusing on their form and connecting mind-body connection right now. That's why they have resistance on their boats, to make it a little bit harder to pull through the water. It's really easy to just go through the motion, go through the positions that your coach tells you to go through, but it's another thing to feel the water. It's another thing to actually feel yourself move past the blade and to connect your intentions with feel in your muscles and not just mindlessly go through it. So it's just about waking up your body. So on their first 800, they had resistance bands and they were just focusing on getting connected, getting the boat moving. They took off their resistance bands, and now they're doing builds. Each one of them does it a little differently. You might get a paddler who takes 30 strokes in a row, and every 10 they get a little bit faster, and then they break, they kind of relax for a second. And what I just told them was that by the time they get to the end of this stretch, at the end of the 800s, I expect them to be race ready, workout ready, so they should be able to get to their max speed by the time they're finished. Theoretically, each stroke is harder than the last. and you're trying to get to your top speed, or whatever speed the build is programmed to go to. These builds are not terribly specific today. I just want them to get their systems primed. Think of a car and how the engine needs a little time to get warmed up, get lubricated. Our bodies have synovial fluid that needs to get pushed around in our joints. It has blood flow that's going to help keep things working at a high energy threshold. And so doing a proper warm-up helps them not crash in the beginning of their workout. Every other week, we switch who's in team boats. Girls are in team boats this week. Next week, it'll be boys. It's really good for them to get both singles and team boat training. And so I don't want them to just only do one or the other. This is a grueling workout because they get half the rest. Some would argue this might not even be a sprint workout because they don't get quality pieces. They don't get to their max speed every time, but there's a purpose to that. I want them to get tired and then still tell their body to pound and to drive, even though they might be dropping speed. I want them to keep sending the signal to go max, max, max. Kayakers have a foot plate or a foot board, and what that footboard has is a little slit that goes horizontal across where the tiller bar sticks through and can be pushed side to side. If you want to go left, you push it to the left. If you want to go right, you push it to the right, because there's these strings that attach it all the way back to the rudder in the back. Canoe, yeah, no, it has nothing, and it has a paddler with only one blade that paddles on one side. It's a very, very difficult sport. The harbor is about 1,500 meters long when you go from end to end, but it's kind of shaped like a bell. So if you went around the perimeter, it's 5K almost, depending on the tide. At the most narrow, it's about 200 meters apart. At the widest, it's about 500 to 700 meters apart. Our largest practice is on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Saturday, where we have both Group 1 and Group 2 here. Each group, when every single paddler shows up, is about 22 kids. But on average, we really just have about 15 to 20 kids come per group. So max, I'll have 35, 40 kids, but today I think we have about 30. And we have 4 chase boats plus the whaler, which is a chase boat, but it creates a lot of wake, so we don't use it a lot. So that means we could have 4 coaches out. And what we like to do is we plan out speed groups. They stick with each of the coaches, but sometimes there's going to be a little bit more spread out of speed groups. So today it might look a little bit more chaotic. And the reason is because of the team boat variations we have along with the singles. So normally we'll have the women's doubles be able to keep up with the men's singles, but we have some women who are just in singles, so then they're going with some of the men's C1s, and it just all depends on who shows up that day and the conditions and the workout. But typically we'll have a speed group per coach, and if not, the kids know to stay together. They have their life jackets on for safety, and the coaches are always within 500 meters and everybody's accounted for. Each paddler is required to have a Coast Guard approved PFD, and that includes a whistle on each of their jackets.